Greetings and welcome back to the For Health Scholars channel. My name is Dr. Orobosa, and on this channel, I show current and aspiring healthcare management, administration, and public health professionals how to, one, quickly and successfully earn their degrees, and two, how to start, build, and enjoy profitable careers within the business side of the healthcare industry globally. Now, today's conversation is all about how to prepare and ace either your first or next healthcare management, administration, or public health job interview. However, before I jump into the conversation, there are two things that I need you to do for me. The first one is to subscribe to this channel, and the second one is to turn on your post notifications. Here's why. Each and every week, I do go live or post videos that answers many of the questions that you may have about the business side of the healthcare industry. I even answer questions that you probably can't find with a basic Google search. So definitely subscribe and definitely turn on your post notifications. I promise you don't want to miss out. So as I stated, today's conversation is all about how to prepare and ace your next or first job interview, especially in the space of healthcare management, administration, and public health. So let's start off with a fun fact. Did you know that only 20% of job applicants make it into the interview round? That's right, only 20% of job applicants make it to the interview round. And so the fact that you have a job interview secured or will have a job interview secured, that is a huge milestone. And in today's conversation, I want to give you a few tips that will help you go from interviewee to hired. So the first step is to celebrate the moment. That's the first thing that you need to do because, as I stated, only 20% of job applicants get called in for the interview. And so it is a celebratory moment, and that celebration helps you get hyped and prepared to go in and conquer the interview. And so you do want to take the time to just take a moment and says, okay, we have the interview. Let's celebrate. And then after you've taken that moment, the next tip that I can give you is to conduct research on the organization. Now, I'm here to tell you your core goal of this interview is, of course, to exhibit that you are knowledgeable and the right candidate for the job. But here's another goal that you should have. And that other goal should be is that you want to become and remain memorable throughout the interview with the interviewer or interviewers if there's multiple people who are interviewing you. That's the ultimate goal, right? The first goal is to show that you're a good candidate and you're the right fit for the job. The second one is to give them something that says, hey, out of everybody we interviewed, this person is the person we want to get hired. And so how do you do that is by, of course, learning about the organization as a first tip, learning about their mission, vision, and values. These are statements that the organization operate from. And so it's imperative for you as a interviewee and a potential candidate that will get hired to know what the organization's mission, vision, and values are, especially as it relates to serving the population that they serve, aka their patients. So keep that information close by. Also, when you're conducting your research, have the information about the role you apply for also handy. Okay, so if you are an active job seeker, I know that you're applying to many jobs at a time. But when you get called for the interview and that interview is secured, go back to the job posting and see what they were looking for in a particular candidate. So when you are sharing your answers to the questions that they ask you, you have crafted it to be in alignment with the posting because that job description posting is really telling you who they are looking for. So why not be 2 steps ahead of the game and craft your responses in alignment to the job description and job posting that they have put out there. In addition, you want to know industry facts, stats, and trends. Remember, in the field of healthcare management, administration, and even public health, our core goal is to solve problems within the healthcare space or to create innovative solutions that will help solve the problems or close the gaps that we see in the healthcare space, especially as it relates to the delivery of care to our number one consumers, which are patients. So keep that in mind. So being knowledgeable about what's happening in an industry, some of the stats and trends will also help you curate your responses to make you an advantageous hire because it's like, okay, this person knows their stuff. They're well educated and well abreast about what's happening in the field and how this organization, through the services that they offer, helps solve those problems or aim to address the problems that you are known to be happening in the field as we speak. And then also know about the types of consumers they serve, aka their patients. The healthcare organization cannot run without patients. In the same light, it cannot run without employees. But in order for them to hire you, they have to have consumers coming in patronizing their services. So you want to know about the ins and out about the consumers they serve. Especially as a public health professional, you want to look at some of the services that this organization offers to members in that community. What are the disparities and health conditions that impacts members in these given communities? And this is information that even a healthcare management and administration professional can also acquire. Well, when you know about their key consumer, it also makes you advantageous hire. Then the next tip that I would have for you is to be prepared. After you conduct that research, prepare yourself for the interview and have the most important documents readily available. So have copies of your resume and or CV available in the event that they bring additional people to your interview. You have a copy of your resume that you can disseminate to them. I always like to do things in even numbers, so I always print out 4. Usually a typical group interview would have anywhere from 3 to 4 people from the organization speaking with you. Anything more than 4 seems a little bit of overload and can make people really nervous. And so they usually keep about 3 to 4 people, but have at least 4 copies of your resume. The more, the merrier, right? Cover letter, you can have copies of that too. They may not ask you for it, but just in the event this organization does or the interviewer does, you have that information readily available. References, contact information. So usually in the application process, they may not ask you for references, but once you get past the interview stage, they may ask you for your references. Make sure you have that information readily available. Make sure that your references, here's another tip. Make sure your references know that you're actively seeking a job, that you interviewed for this organization, and that somebody from this organization will contact them to get a reference from them, whether it be via phone or by email or even by mail. These days, they're not really mailing anything, but just to kind of give you the different avenues, make sure your references are aware so that they don't bypass it, ignore the call when it's coming in, bypass the email when it's coming in. You want to make sure that they have this information readily available so they can speak highly on you on your behalf. Let's keep that in mind. Also have your salary requirements in mind. Now, for many individuals, talking about salary and negotiating salary can be a challenging thing or something that people don't want to talk about. But I'm here to give you a tip. Almost every job, except for maybe 1 or 2 jobs, and this was very early on in my career, I negotiated my salary. And not only did I negotiate my salary, but negotiated higher, okay, than what they were offering. But the way I did that was I had insight on what they typically paid people in this particular position. And so websites like Glassdoor.com can help you. Even some of the job sites like Indeed.com, they may have some stats on about salaries on this position. And do your research. Even speak to people who work in similar roles that you know within this organization or another organization to gauge what the salary may look like, and then have your salary requirements in mind. And here's another thing that I want to mention. In this day and age, working for a job should be mutually beneficial. It's not only about you giving your expertise and your knowledge and serving this organization, but in the same light that this organization is giving you what you need to survive. Okay. So when you're thinking about salary requirements, think about everything: your rent, okay, your bills, okay, transportation money to and from this job if you have to work on site. All of that should be taken into consideration and be at the forefront when you are determining what's the appropriate salary. Never tell them your salary. Okay, and I'll do a whole nother video on salary negotiations, etc. But just for the purpose of this video, never come out with what you want to offer. Let them tell you what they're offering for this position and ask, is this something that can be negotiated? That is how you are able to negotiate your salary. Well, the starting point. But like I said, I will record a video that touches more about salary negotiations. If you're required to do a presentation or bring in a portfolio of your work, also have that available. I know in certain teaching positions, you may be asked to put a presentation together or a teaching module together just to showcase your expertise. For those of you who are watching and interested in becoming a professor, so most of the times the hiring managers will ask you, or the department heads will ask you to put a teaching presentation together that showcases how you will provide instruction in your course room. So just keep that in mind, but have that stuff readily available and well written, okay? Make sure that it's error-free and presentable. Then the next tip I will give you is to ask thought-driven questions and give thought-provoking responses. Once again, the key is, or the goal is to remain memorable among the interviewers and hiring managers. Remember, you probably are not the only individual who's interviewing for this particular role. But one of the ways that helps you stick out from the crowd is when you ask thought-provoking questions and provide thought-provoking responses. When they ask you, do you have any questions? You do. Okay. One of the questions that I used to ask was, what is it that you're looking for in the ideal candidate for this role? And that question was always something like, oh, okay. Yes, we are looking for this, this, and this. So it gives them an opportunity to disclose, but also you take that information and you use it going forward, whether it is to put it on your last selling point, to let them know that you are the right candidate, or to continue your interview answering questions that are in alignment to who they said they are looking for. Okay. Vernacular and word choice is the name of the game. That's the thing. But having good word usage and choices of words and putting it together to articulate your responses and sell your story is the name of the game. That is how you remain memorable. So that's a tip that I would give you. And then tip number 5 is to be mindful of your body language and other communication style. This is key. For many candidates, sometimes you may have what they call resting bee face. I'm guilty of this sometimes, where I have really no thoughts. I'm just to myself, but it looks like I may be not having a friendly face, right? But that's not the case. And so for individuals who you may be like me and have the resting bee face, sometimes be mindful of that. Your body language should be inviting. It should be welcoming. It should be approachable. All right. In the sense of they're willing to have a conversation with you and that you look interested in being a part of this interview. It doesn't look like you're wasting your time. I have sat through so many interviews with, as an interviewer, interviewing candidates, and their body language tells a whole different story. So be mindful of that. Even in your communication styles, word choice, refrain from using colloquialisms, refrain from generalizing what you think are the problems of their consumers, refrain from using jargon. Those are like some of the 3 top tips I can keep in mind when it comes to verbal communication style. Okay, keep those things in mind because interviewers are looking, and sometimes they have people in the room. You don't even realize they're in the room, but they're also assessing who you are and whether you're going to be a great culture hire or great culture fit. And I did my video on like how to write a hiring manager worthy resume. And I talked about being a great culture fit or great culture ad. Okay, it's important. So your body language contributes to that. And then I know you're like, really? Dress for success? But that's my last tip. Dress for success. I have sat through several interviews where candidates come in like they just rolled out of bed. And this is not to offend anybody, but this is just giving you the real. I have really interviewed people who they didn't put any time or effort in what they wear. They came in disheveled. They came in with stains on their clothes. And it's not to belittle anyone if you're going through a particular situation, but it is to tell you that you have to dress for the part. Okay. Many people are visual individuals. And so how you present yourself is how they perceive you. If you come in well-dressed and confident, that's how they perceive you. And that confidence doesn't mean it's an arrogance, but means that you are ready for the task ahead, that you can handle yourself in a room of, especially when there's group interviewers, you can handle yourself and you're poised and you're well put together to impress these individuals, because first impressions leave lasting impressions. And so it doesn't mean that you have to buy the most expensive shirt, but it does mean that your shirt should be ironed. It does mean that you should be presentable, because that shows them what kind of individual and how, once again, you fit in their organization and you can be able to fill this part. Remember, healthcare administration, management, and even some public health jobs, these are leadership positions in their own right. How are you going to lead organizations when you're barely able and where you don't look like you can lead yourself? So that's just my tip. Please don't be offended by it. But just from my experience, dressing for success is important. All right, so that recaps all of the tips that I have. If you are an active job seeker, I do have a free resource that is located in the description box that helps you go from healthcare graduate to hire. Definitely check it out. It's free to you. Just put your information into the link and then it get emailed to you. But it gives you some great tips and advice to really help you prepare you on your job hunting process to go from a graduate from school to interviewee to hired. So that is all that I have for today's video. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, bye for now.